She doesn't love you. She loves what you make her feel. You thought you were special, that your kindness, your loyalty, your sacrifices meant something real. But the more you gave, the less you mattered. You became easy to reach, easy to please, easy to overlook. In that moment, you stopped being a man in her eyes and became a tool. Schopenhauer didn't hate women. He saw them clearly. He called them a trap, laid by nature, a biological illusion designed to bind men through beauty, desire, and emotional dependence. From the way she tilts her head to the softness in her voice, from the moment she touches your hand to the tears she sheds, it's not manipulation, it's instinct. Nature doesn't care about your feeling. And once you recognize this pattern, you can't unsee it. The pedestal you placed her on was never real. The love you believed unconditional was transactional. This doesn't make her evil, it makes her human. Just as men have an instinct to protect, provide and pursue, women have the instinct to attract, secure and survive. But when you ignore this brutal truth, you hand over your power. This isn't about hate, it's about clarity. It's about waking up. Because the man blind to female nature will always suffer under the illusion of love. Here's the truth no one tells you. You see her across the room, red lips, delicate features, soft glowing skin. Your heart skips a beat, your mind races. You think she's the one. But that feeling, that intoxicating rush, it's not love, it's nature, it's instinct, it's biology hijacking your brain. Schopenhauer didn't romanticize desire. He exposed. To him, beauty isn't a divine gift or soulful connection. It's bait, crafted by nature to pull you in, to trap you into service. The will to life uses the illusion of beauty to ensure its own survival. That flawless skin, that hypnotic voice, that perfect curve of her smile, it's not for you. It's not even really her. It's nature using her as a vessel to carry its agenda forward. That aching, desperate pull you feel when you see a beautiful woman, it's not sacred, it's not romantic, it's a trap. An ancient program written into your DNA telling you to chase, to serve, to surrender even at your own expense. Schopenhauer noticed something deeply unsettling. What men call love is often just desire in disguise. You're not falling for who she really is. You're falling for what she represents: youth, fertility, softness, validation. And she doesn't even need to try. Her smile feels personal, but it's generic. Her charm feels unique, but it's biological. It's not deception, it's design. Let me tell you about Ethan. Ethan was a good man, loyal, kind, emotionally open. He met a girl who seemed perfect. He opened his heart, invested his time, and gave everything he had. But slowly, Ethan realized something was off. The affection he received wasn't consistent. The appreciation never quite enough. His love was met with distance, her needs always shifting. The harder he tried, the more invisible he became. Ethan's story isn't unique. It's the story of countless men caught in the same cycle, falling for the image, mistaking biology for emotion, sacrificing self-worth for a love that was never theirs to claim. Understanding this doesn't mean giving up on connection or denying intimacy. It means seeing the raw, unfiltered truth beneath the surface. It means reclaiming your power from illusions designed to control you. It means loving yourself enough to stop being a pawn in a game scripted by evolution. You deserve to be valued for who you truly are, not for what you can provide, not for the feelings you spark, but for your whole, authentic self. That kind of love isn't a trap. It's rare, it's real, and it starts when you stop chasing shadows and start seeing clearly. Because the first step to freedom isn't finding the perfect person. It's waking up to the truth about desire, love, and the instincts that have shaped us all. Only then can you stop losing yourself and start becoming the man you were always meant to be. Ethan opened doors for her, listened to every word, sent good morning texts every day. For a while, she seemed to shine around him. He believed he'd found his soulmate, but slowly things changed. She grew distant, less responsive, less impressed. The more he gave, the less she valued him. Why? Because Ethan didn't understand nature. He thought attraction was about being nice, but nature doesn't reward niceness. It rewards strength, unpredictability, power. Ethan was playing a game without knowing the rules. Modern men grow up fed fantasies, Disney fairy tales, rom-coms, Instagram quotes about soulmates. But Schopenhauer called this a dangerous illusion. Love, he said, is a metaphysical deception. It makes us think we choose freely, when really, we are slaves to the species. You don't fall in love, you fall into programming. That magnetic pull toward her body, that sudden feeling you die for her, that's not you choosing. That's the will to life, acting through you, making you a servant to reproduction. Her beauty, her sweetness, their tools, survival mechanism. Not conscious manipulation, but unconscious evolution. Schopenhauer said, "A woman's charm is nature's mask, worn just long enough to trap a man. And when the illusion fades, reality hits hard." Here's the tragedy. Men today confuse attention for affection, desire for destiny. They think being chosen by a beautiful woman means they are valuable, but really, it means they are useful to her needs, her insecurities, her survival. The moment you stop being useful, the charm disappears. Beauty attracts, but beauty doesn't commit. It owes no loyalty. It guarantees no debt. Schopenhauer saw this with brutal clarity. Men live in a dream. Women are part of that dream, but the dream isn't real. If you think this is just old philosophy, think again. Every time you obsess over her beauty, every time you put her on a pedestal, every time you imagine a future based on feelings alone, you fall into the trap Schopenhauer warned about. You stop being a sovereign man, and become a means to an end. You work harder, dress better, earn more, all to win her attention, and she doesn't even need to ask. Nature does it for her. Her beauty speaks louder than words. Your instincts, ancient, powerful, obey without question. So what do? You wake up. You detach your worth from her attention. You stop treating desire like destiny. Schopenhauer never said love was impossible. He said unexamined love was dangerous. When you understand what drives your desire, you reclaim your power. You stop chasing illusions. You stop serving instinct. You start seeing clearly. You can admire her beauty. You can respect her nature. But you must never worship the illusion, because once you do, you become the prey. So why do men fall? Because we forget the rules, because we ignore the biology beneath the romance, because we mistake hunger for connection and instinct for soul. But knowing this is freedom. It means you don't have to be a victim of nature's game. You can choose to be a man who knows himself, who loves without losing himself. You can be the one who stands strong, not because you deny desire, but because you see it clearly. Because real power isn't about winning affection, it's about owning your worth beyond it. And that's where true freedom begins. Do men kneel not just to beauty but to the illusion behind it? The answer isn't simple. It's not just biology, it's psychology, evolution, and centuries of romantic delusion all tangled together, pulling the strings until the man becomes a puppet. Let's break it down. From the moment you were born, the world begins programming you. Disney shows you the damsel in distress. Hollywood crowns her with a halo, and every song, every fairy tale, every tragic romance tells the same lie. If you love her enough, you will be enough. This is where the trap begins: idealization. You don't see her. You see a fantasy wearing her face. Your mind fills in the blanks. She's kind, innocent, pure. She gets you. But that's not her reality. That's your projection. You took a woman and turned her into a goddess. And what do men do to goddesses? They worship, even when they don't deserve. Psychologists call this projective idealization. It means you don't fall in love with who she really is. You fall in love with who you need her to be. A soft place in a hard world. A cure for loneliness. A fantasy to silence your chaos. But the moment you project a fantasy onto someone, you stop seeing them clearly. You ignore red flag. You rationalize manipulation. You forgive coldness. Because if the goddess has flaws, the illusion shatters, and most men would rather bleed than wake up. But the psychological layer is only part of the story. There's something deeper, older, written into our DNA. Evolution designed men to provide, to chase, to impress, to sacrifice. Why? Because in nature, access to women equals legacy. For most of human history, 80% of women reproduced, but only 40% of men did. Over half of all men were biologically filtered out. So men evolved to compete, to signal, to serve. That's why today's man will bend his morals, work 60-hour weeks, buy luxury he can't afford, all to gain what his ancestors fought and died for: her attention. But here's the catch: that drive, once essential for survival, now enslaves him in a world where beauty is everywhere and meaning is rare. Add to this biology, the modern religion of romance. We no longer believe in gods, but we do believe in the one, someone perfect, who will heal us, complete us, love us unconditionally. But that belief isn't noble. It's dangerous, because when you believe she's the one, you stop protecting yourself. You forgive betrayal, you accept disrespect, you abandon yourself just to keep her close. And when she leaves, or reveals her true nature, you don't just lose a partner, you lose your identity. That's not love, that's self-erasure. And it's happening to millions of men every day. Now, let's talk about the third layer of the trap: culture. Modern media worships the feminine. Women are always celebrated, their value tied to youth and beauty. The narrative says they deserve admiration, protection, even unquestioned loyalty. Men are expected to give, to serve, to sacrifice endlessly, to be providers, supporters, emotional anchors, but rarely are they shown as whole human beings with needs, doubts, and limits. This creates a dangerous imbalance. The man who tries to set boundaries is labeled cold, unloving, or not enough. The one who resists the fantasy is branded a cynic or a failure. Meanwhile, society pushes men to perform, to achieve, to win affection through endless effort and self-denial. This is why so many men feel lost, exhausted, disconnected. They chase an illusion, worship an ideal, and sacrifice themselves in the process. But waking up means breaking free from all these layers: biology, psychology, and culture. It means seeing clearly without illusions, respecting nature without surrendering your power, loving deeply without losing yourself. Because true strength isn't about worshipping the illusion. It's about owning your truth, standing firm in reality, and choosing who you give your life to. That's how you reclaim your freedom. That's how you stop being a puppet and become the master of your own story. The prize, the healer, the strong independent woman who claims she needs no man but somehow always finds one willing to sacrifice everything for her. Movies never show her flaws. Songs never question her motives. Advertisements paint her as the ultimate gatekeeper to happiness. But what about the man? If he doesn't get the girl, he's a loser. If he walks away, he's cold. And if he questions female nature, he's bitter or broke. This is how media rewires male desire, not toward strength, purpose, or brotherhood, but toward validation through female approval. It's not just manipulation, it's mass hypnosis. And most men are so deep inside this dream, they don't even realize they're trapped. Still think this is just theory. Let me show you how this trap played out in real history. Napoleon Bonaparte, the man who conquered half of Europe, was utterly enslaved by a woman named Josephine. Despite her countless affairs, her coldness, and her neglect, Napoleon kept writing her love letters. He went to war with her name on his lip. He lost battles, and eventually, his sanity, chasing her ghost. The man who broke kings was broken by a woman, not because she was evil, but because he projected his power onto her beauty. He forgot that even the most glorious rose has thorns. Let's be clear, women are not evil. They are not monsters. They are simply responding to nature, just like men are. But the problem arises when men don't understand this dance. When they view feminine behavior through the lens of fantasy and fairy tales, they destroy themselves trying to earn love that was never meant to be earned. They give and give until there's nothing left but a hollow man, a broken dream. So how do you escape this trap? You stop worship. You stop projecting. You kill the illusion before it kills you. You see her beauty, but not as salvation. You hear her words, but not as gospel. You accept her nature, but you never build your life around it. When you do this, you break the spell. You reclaim your mind. You rebuild your instinct. You become a man with clarity in a world drowning in delusion. Schopenhauer once said, "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone." And when it comes to desire, that solitude, that clarity, that brutal awareness might be the only thing that saves you. Arthur Schopenhauer did not believe in romantic love, not in the way you've been taught. He didn't write poems about soulmates. He didn't fantasize about unconditional love. Instead, he tore off the mask and exposed the cold machinery behind the most intoxicating feeling in the world. In his words, love is the ultimate deception of the will. A man believes he's pursuing happiness, but in truth he's merely a tool. A tool for what? For nature, for biology, for the survival of the species, not the happiness of the individual. Let's unpack this will, the hidden master at the center of Schopenhauer's philosophy. It's an unconscious force driving all living beings, pushing men and women alike to perpetuate life, to reproduce, to serve the species. It doesn't care about your feelings, your dreams, or your heart. It's ruthless and indifferent. When you fall in love, you are surrendering to this will. Your desires, your decisions, even your sense of self become tools in its relentless agenda. This is why love feels so overwhelming, so unavoidable, and so often so painful. Understanding this doesn't make you cynical. It makes you awake. It frees you from illusions and gives you power over your own life. You stop being a puppet in the ancient play of biology. You begin to live on your own terms, because the real freedom comes not from chasing illusions, but from seeing clearly and choosing wisely. The will, an invisible, blind, and relentless force that drives all life. You don't choose your desires. You don't choose your attractions. You don't even choose your goals. You are compelled. The will operates beneath your thoughts, beneath your personality. It doesn't care about your dreams or your plans. It cares about one thing: reproduction. Love, that beautiful, poetic, heart-wrenching experience. Schopenhauer called it the cunning trick of nature, a hallucination designed to trap men and women into serving the will. You don't fall in love, you are pushed. You think you fell in love because of her laugh, her personality, or her vibe. But Schopenhauer says, no, you fell because the will saw potential genes. You fell because your subconscious calculated her body's ability to bear children, because her facial symmetry triggered ancient reproductive instincts, because her scent activated parts of your brain older than civilization itself. It wasn't romance, it was biology dressed up as magic. What makes it even more brutal is that the illusion feels real. It hijacks your thoughts. You write poetry, make promises, fight for her, but from the will's point of view, you're just a pawn executing a code. Why does she become the obsession? Have you noticed how falling in love makes you irrational? How you can't stop thinking about how her voice, her approval, even her absence dominates your mind? That's not weakness, that's desire. Schopenhauer wrote, "He is driven not by choice, but by command." You don't love her because she's special. You love her because nature needs you to. Because if men didn't fall obsessively, the species wouldn't survive. So evolution created a drug, a psychological cocktail so potent, it could override logic, ambition, even dignity. We call it love, but it's really nature's leash. Schopenhauer is infamous for calling women the weaker sex. Modern ears hear that and cry misogyny, but they miss the point. He wasn't mocking women. He was describing nature's division of power. Men are physically stronger. Women are biologically more valuable. They carry life. Because of this, nature made men expendable. Hunters, fighters, builders. It made women conservers, selective, defensive, cunning. This is not good or bad. It's not about fairness. It's about function. So when Schopenhauer said women exist in the service of the species, he meant they aren't consciously evil. They are strategically designed. They charm, manipulate, and test, not because they choose to, but because it works. It filters out the weak. It ensures only the strongest, most resourceful males pass on their genes. So when a woman pulls away, when she loses interest, when you chase, when she uses her beauty to test your frame, that's not cruelty. That's evolution. Romantic attachment is dangerous. Why did Schopenhauer warn men to avoid love altogether? Because he saw what it does to them. It blinds, it breaks, it consumes. Men have sacrificed kingdoms for love. They've destroyed themselves for illusions. Love turns the strongest into slaves. It makes kings beggars. It reduces warriors to desperate fools. But the truth is harder to swallow. Love is a tool wielded by nature, not a gift from the heart. This doesn't mean you can't admire beauty or feel passion. It means you need to understand the game you're playing, to see beyond the veil, to recognize that love is less about choice and more about survival. And only when you understand the will can you start to reclaim your freedom. You don't have to be a pawn. You don't have to surrender your mind. You can be the master of your own fate. Because real strength comes from seeing clearly even when the truth cuts deep. Women who walk away without looking back, betray missions, abandon friends, and sometimes destroy themselves, all in the name of love. But here's the raw truth. A man is only truly free when he stands beyond the reach of desire. Schopenhauer said it himself. Romantic desire, especially when it's idealized and projected, is the strongest chain of all. Because it doesn't feel like a chain. It feels like salvation until it's too late. Love, as we know it, is not noble. It's not divine. It's not a prize for being good or worthy. It's a mechanism, a system, a program that uses emotion to enforce biology. And once you see it for what it really is, once you understand that the butterflies, the obsession, the heartbreak, those are all features of the trap, you stop being a victim. You can still feel love. You can still be moved by beauty. But you will never again be enslaved by it. Most men spend their entire lives worshipping a lie. They chase women hoping to find meaning. They offer themselves on the altar of romance, hoping to be chosen. But once you grasp Schopenhauer's vision, once you see love not as a blessing but as a cold design, you don't hate women. You don't withdraw from life. You become free. You see her beauty, but not as truth. You feel your desire, but you don't obey it blindly. You understand the game, but you choose your own path. That is the beginning of masculine clarity, of power, of peace. To marry is to have one's rights and double one's duty. Schopenhauer once said, with a knowing smirk, not because he despised love, but because he understood it deep. And now so do you. You've been lied to. From movies, song, fairy tales told by men who didn't know better, you were taught that the greatest goal in life is to win her heart, to be chosen, to be enough for her. Here's the truth. You were never supposed to chase her. You were supposed to become him, the man who does not beg, who does not break, who cannot be owned. When you finally see love as less divine and more strategic, the spell begins to fade. The flattery of her smile, the mystery of her silence, the pain of her distance, it all loses its power. Not because you become bitter, not because you stop feeling, because you finally see the mechanism. You stop interpreting your emotions as commands and start seeing them as signal. You stop confusing attraction with truth. You stop measuring your worth by her attention. You were the flame, not the moth. All your life, you were taught to orbit, to win her, to center your story around her. But what if she was never the center? What if you were? The masculine spirit, when undistracted, builds empire. It writes books, fights wars, shapes history, not through chasing illusion, but through clarity of purpose. You become the force, not the follower. You reclaim your mind. You reclaim your power, because freedom isn't given. It's earned by understanding the rules, by breaking the spell, and by standing firm when desire tries to pull you under. This is not the end of feeling, it's the start of mastery. So stop chasing shadows. Become the man who commands his own fate, because when you do, you don't just survive the game, you rewrite it. Reality is fragile, but when it's hypnotized by beauty, it shatters like Samson in Delilah's arms. Like great kings who burn their empires for a kiss. These men weren't weak, they were simply blind. Redirection is power. The most powerful men in history didn't suppress their desire, they redirected it. Leonardo da Vinci never married. Nietzsche died alone. Schopenhauer walked through life unchained by romance, seeing the world with ruthless clarity. This doesn't mean rejecting love, it means no longer needing. You start chasing purpose instead of pleasure, freedom over comfort, respect more than validation. Because what does it matter if she chooses you, if you haven't even chosen yourself? Every man has a fire inside him. Most let it die, snuffed out by rejection, heartbreak, or trying too hard to be enough for someone else. But the awakened man fans that fire. He uses solitude as fuel, discomfort as a whetstone, disappointment as a compass. He doesn't ask, why doesn't she love me? He asks, why have I forgotten my mission? Because when your mission is clear, everything else falls into place. Women notice, people respect you, and most importantly, you respect yourself. Don't hate her for being what nature made her. She is instinct, she is selection, she is the test, not the prize. Your enemy isn't her beauty, it's your blindness to it. It's the belief that she owes you something for your goodness. She doesn't. Nature isn't fair, it's strategic, and your freedom begins the moment you stop demanding fairness and start building power. You weren't meant to be understood, you were meant to be feared. Schopenhauer saw this before most men dared to. The more intelligent a man is, the less he is understood by women. You weren't born to be liked, you were born to be unshakable. A man who doesn't flinch when she blinks different. A man who doesn't crumble when she pulls away. A man who doesn't need to prove himself because he knows himself. That's the man who becomes untouchable, not because he's cold, but because he's clear. Here's what they don't tell you. She was never thinking about your feelings. She was watching your frame, your energy, your posture, your power. Because nature doesn't select kindness, it selects strength. If you become the man you were meant to be, you won't need to chase women. They will orbit you like stars around gravity. Because deep down, nature honors power. So remember, she was never the prize. She was the mirror, the test, the illusion. You are the prize. When you are rooted in truth, when your purpose leads, and not your desire, let them call you cold. Let them say you don't understand love. Let them mock your distance, but smile, because you know what they don't. Love is real, but not in the way most people believe. It's not about fairy tales or perfect endings. True love isn't a fleeting feeling or a shallow spark. It's something deeper, something harder, something that demands clarity. Freedom is love's higher form. When you understand this, love stops being a trap and becomes a choice. It's no longer about losing yourself in someone else, but about standing fully in yourself while sharing your world with another. Real love is built on freedom, not possession, not dependence. Truth is stronger than beauty. Beauty fades, illusions crumble, but truth stands firm. When you see beyond the surface, beyond the mask, you begin to understand what really matters. You see the patterns, the instincts, the raw reality beneath the gloss. And once you see clearly, you never fall the same way again. You don't get trapped by illusions. You don't chase shadows. You rise. You rise above the chaos, above the noise, above the need for validation. You rise because you know who you are. You rise because your worth isn't tied to someone else's approval. This clarity isn't coldness, it's strength, it's power, it's peace. You walk forward unshaken by heartbreak or rejection because your foundation is solid. You don't crumble when love fades, you adapt. You don't lose yourself in the dance of desire, you lead. Because when love is freedom and truth is your guide, falling isn't failure, it's growth. And rising, that's your destiny.